Hello, my friends. Hello from New York City. Get John on here in a second. For those of you that are watching these now after the Baines live from a few days ago, which was so much fun, please go check out the Discord. There's a lot of great questions from people about day-to-day engineering, record-making, production stuff, and there's a lot of great voices on the Discord, including Baines, who joined up, but guys like Kian, Reardon, a lot of other folks get a lot of good info on there. So if you got questions about how to get work as a young engineer, how people came up, ideas for all that kind of stuff, please check out the Discord. There's great folks over there. All right, I'm going to grab John right now. Dang, what's up, everybody? Hey.
What up?
Somebody asked, when's Kian coming on again? He's coming on soon. But you can also go on the Discord, and he's super active on there, throwing up memes, throwing great advice. There's a lot of really interesting stuff going on there with people digging into something you and I talked about with the Ableton resolution things, and there'll be more
nice.
specific info soon. Nice. But people really hunting and trying to get good
Discord.
Info together. Discord, we're gonna get you on there soon. Maybe you can come over to.
I'm not going at this point. I'm just like, it's too late for me.
No, you come over to my studio and we just and we'll just go on there and answer some questions.
That's
I think
you and
I should go do a Twitch thing too. There's a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people asking about doing live stream things, and people want to see us mix, produce, work on things, whatever. But we'll figure some version of that. That's not just kind of the usual.
What if we're not doing that because actually, in fact, I don't mix records? I just really understand the vernacular and the jargon, and I just don't actually mix.
After 50 hours of conversation, the jig is up, and you don't even know how to mix it.
No idea. Where are you at? How's New York?
I'm good, man. I'm on the Lower East Side, and just got in yesterday. First airplane since I guess the end of 2019, early 2020, and it honestly feels great, man. New York is in a really interesting spot right now where it's opening up a bit. Obviously, as with a lot of other cities around the world, a lot of dining and things have moved to open air, semi-open air, sidewalk type things. And New York probably sucks for that in the winter, but boy, is it great in the spring. New York in the spring is about as good as it can get. It was a little drizzly last night, but the sun came out earlier, walking around. And of course, there's no tourists, although I'm, I guess, a tourist now. But the level of congestion is pretty low. So it's lots of locals. Ran into friends last night with other friends. It was just like, it's just a great vibe. So now that I'm double vaxxed, I got on a plane and got out here, did a couple hours of work on the plane, comping vocals.
Really?
Yeah, just getting it in however I can. It was a little rough on the plane because I realized that a lot of the editing hotkeys happen with the big keyboard, with the numeric pad, especially in Pro Tools. There's just so much more you can do, and so it's a little inconvenient to bring like the keyboard and the trackball and the whatever. But I sorted it out.
Tume just messaged me, said, tell your boy to pull up.
Who's me to pull up?
Yeah.
Oh, is he in New York?
Studio. Yeah, he's in New York.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'll send him a message.
You should roll over there and say what up.
I absolutely will. I have not met him, but we just started the mutual follow on the Instagram, so I'll hit him up and
sick.
Head over there. People really liked having Baines on. We sang your praises a bit. I don't know if you saw any of it.
I didn't actually. I was going to ask how that went.
Oh, it was so cool, man.
I was in Santa Barbara all weekend enjoying life, not on Instagram. So.
As you should. Well, as I told Baines and have told other people, I'm such a huge Young Thug fan and such a fan of his work. And it was cool to go in. And he was just like, here's what we do when we track vocals. Here's the vocal chain. But also getting into, like, as you and I've talked about, the intensity of being in with a creative family, the kind of work hours, the kind of commitment, long-term relationships with people. I mean, he's over there working with the whole YSL, basically on all their projects and just killing it. So it was just cool to have that energy on the lives and some new people coming on and introing to new people as well. So it's just
only have
cool,
so much of this voice. Only have so much of that.
Never enough of you, John. There's always more to be had. How are you doing, man? Are you back to? Good. I guess it's Tuesday. Back working from your weekend.
Yeah. Well, I got to jump on some stuff after this. I played tennis this morning.
Nice.
And listened to a podcast, and I'm gonna jump on a couple of mixes after we chat.
Nice, man.
It's in New York, though. I want to go back to New York in the spring.
Oh yeah, well, we definitely got to get back here. I am trying.
How long are you staying for? What's your
2
vibe
weeks. I'm gonna stay here for 2
sick.
weeks. Yeah. So it's a big art week in New York this week. Freeze, the big art fair. So I have some friends out here. My brother's gonna be out here. A couple of friends that were living in LA, and then when the pandemic started, they moved away. A few of them are in New York, so I'm gonna see some of them and do some meetings. I might do a couple of sessions. I've got a bunch of song demos to finish, and been working on a movie project, which I actually just tried to send another mix for. We'll see if the hotel internet. My laptop's behind my phone right here, so I have to check periodically and see if this this file is just like,
always working things. Man.
Yeah, well, I feel
always working.
Well, you know this.
No breaks. No lot of sleep.
A lot of people watching this. Sorry. You know this. I know this. A lot of people watching know this. We talked about it with Baines. A big part of being a music professional is being able to deliver on last minute shit. Yeah. Where somebody goes, "Hey, I'm in a panic. Can you?" And I just go, "Yep, 100%. Let me just figure it out." I rarely say no in those situations because those are the most important situations. Those last minute. I mean, Baines talked about in the live where they delivered the album on Thursday or delivered the album on Wednesday for a Friday release. And then Thursday, he gets the call, "Hey, that Drake record's going to make it. Can you mix it? I know we've delivered the album." Then Thug goes live on Instagram, goes to where Baines is mixing. It's like just putting the pressure on, putting it out there. It's
I love that.
Like, that's just what it is.
The best love that. It's just that's the energy, and you can feel that in some of the records too. Knowing that, it's like, I get it. There's just a little bit more anxiety to it, Yeah. It's like it's a little bit unsettling, and that's what makes certain records feel good, And
not that I want to go on a huge philosophical rant, although I want to, but I won't.
Always.
for the sake of the live. But there's something about music that is different from every other art form, almost every other art form. That music, there's something sort of tense and unrefined and immediate about it. Like if you've experienced this, I've experienced this, probably everybody has. It's really easy to overcook records and overproduce things and overmix things. I don't know the way it is with authors and novels or painters, but I get the impression that music has that's why people can make a 3-minute song in their bedroom that's a huge hit. There's an energy to music, and sometimes you need that tension. And I learned that from working on a Hives record back in the day when I was just doing engineering, working for Dennis Herring. Went to Sweden, and there was something we were doing background vocals, and we did a few passes of something, and then he said, "Just hit record again. Just make them." I think the guitar player was like, think in his head too much and think about it. He was like, "Just hit record again. Just go again. Just go again." So the guy wouldn't have time to like catch up, and then all of a sudden you get something more spontaneous. And there's something really, really powerful about that. I don't know how that applies to the mix energy, but like tracking vocals.
There's so many more typos in music than in a book.
Yeah. And there's something about it that's actually essential to the art form. Like seeing the tension, seeing the mistakes.
Yeah, I don't want there spelled THERE when it's supposed to be THEIR, but I want a guitar flub to happen in the solo when it's the star performer in the song, Because you're confused on the context of why there's a typo. You're not confused why there's a mistake. Every human makes mistakes. And that record, you're going to come back because of that. And in a book, you're going to just be confused. That's why there's such a deep editing process. And when you're editing that deeply in music, it sterilizes it, and it makes it cold.
Yeah, especially in this sort of 3-minute whatever pop form of music. I mean, I assume that like film scores need more editing, or symphonies and things like that, but I don't do any of that stuff. So
well, when you think about when you get your first pair of good monitors, or you're introduced to a proper monitoring environment, you're in a room and you hear a record that you heard when you were 15, like one of your favorite life-altering records, and you're like, wait, I never heard that before. And it's a mistake. It's usually like a what? That like something, a slide on the string or something. It's like those are the bits we come back for as music. Yeah. So why are we overcooking music when that's what changed our life about music, the humaneness of it, the humanity of it, I mean.
That's an interesting thing too, because there's sort of two parts to that. One, I encourage everybody as you go, 5, 10, 15, 20 years into your career, go listen to those records that were important to you when you were a teenager that you haven't listened to. Like I went back and listened to like a Cranberries record and listened to a Loonies album, like two opposite, Cranberries, like sweet guitar rock, although Zombie is a pretty intense song, but like Irish, and like the drums sound kind of garage bandy and not that great. And then going and listening to this Loonies record, which is, they did I Got Five on, they're like Bay Area legends of hip hop. And those records just sound kind of weird, but grimy, and like in a way that I would never make those choices, but it affected me so much as a teenager. It's like, you want to go back and go like, wait, all of these mistakes, there's something powerful and immediate about it. And then, you know, the other thing, well, it's hard as you learn all of the skills about how to make things good. We were actually talking about it in the Discord about people learning engineering and knowing how to refine things and make things really perfect. But part of that is you learn about, well, the microphone needs to be perfect and it needs to have the right thing. And then we were talking with Baines a couple days ago, and he's like, and I was telling him my favorite vocal on the record, they accidentally daisy-chained where it was recorded, daisy-chained 2 preamps together. And it was obviously a mistake. It just was the routing. They were doing it quickly, and it was in some other studio, and he got the vocal. And it turns out there was something magical about it, because mistakes are part of the process. And you have to, as we get more and more refined, especially those of us that are doing more writing and producing, you got to let those moments happen, and you got to let the creative environment take precedence over the sort of perfect recording environment. It's really, really huge stuff. Man, we got so many questions this week.
Let's go.
Do you want to, we can jump into a few. This one is kind of an interesting one. We've never really talked about this. Alex asked, how do you navigate friendships in the biz? It's a conversation that I've had with a lot of people, because so much of what we do involves
great question.
It's a great question. And there isn't really a straightforward answer, which is the sort of topics you and I love talking about. I have a lot of friends that I've made in the music industry. Some of them, like you, have actually become really close friends of mine outside of music. Then there's some that the friendships are not fake or insincere, but because we work in an environment that involves vulnerability, especially I'm doing lots of writing sessions. So it's like, you got to get really close with people quickly. Otherwise you're going to make superficial songs. You need to build a huge amount of trust and a huge amount of intimacy really quickly. But then you also might not see that person for 3 years. And I have a lot of those relationships where like, wow, we went really deep for these 2 days that we worked. And then we sent versions of the song back and forth, and maybe we had a hit, but I don't see him for 2 years and we don't really talk otherwise. So that friendship, I think, doesn't really exist in a lot of other industries. And even learning about that and thinking about that it took me a while to go like, okay, these people are my friends, but we're not like friends outside of music, but it doesn't mean it's fake. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to dig into this. You have thoughts about it?
Every close friend of mine outside of the friends that I met when I was 3 years old in my neighborhood have been through music.
Wow, interesting.
Everyone. I'm trying to think, like, while we're talking, whether it was started out in jazz band in high school, you know, which I have one friend still from that period of time, and all the way through my Long Island recording studio, where I met some of my closest dear friends in New York, a couple of which moved out to LA too, that are here that I talk to regularly. All the way through you and Tyler Johnson, who's one of my closest collaborators, and Spider and the whole podcast crew is all through. Everyone that I'm really, really tight with has been through music, but there's always there's an obvious connection secondary to it or tertiary to it, I guess, where they check in on you for other reasons. We send each other things. Hey, do you hear this podcast? It has nothing to do with music, right? Like something else. Like, hey, how's your girl? How's you know, like how's your family? Like I heard your brother was going through a thing. Like you check in about other things, and the first thing isn't always music. If first thing is always music, that's cool too. It's a different relationship. Yeah, it can still be a friendship, but we're talking about the people that you can count on one hand, that like, you know, you can count on. Yeah. Which is like a lesson I learned from my dad when I was like in elementary school, which is like, you're going to meet a lot of people in your life. You're going to be able to count on one hand who the people you can truly count on are. And it was just one of those lessons that like I've just always taken through. I love hosting dinner parties, and I I consider a lot of people friends that I want to have over for dinner and eat, whether it's a 10-person intimate dinner or a 50-person engineer event, I consider all these people friends.
Yeah.
And that's what there's acquaintance and there's friends. I consider a lot of people friends that I genuinely love and feel like I could be reliable to in multi degrees. But there's a clear distinction when someone hits you up for something other than music, and then the ones that only hit you up for music, but you're cool with. Yeah. And that's for you to discern, for you to figure out how to handle. There's no right or wrong. There's no better or worse. They're just different. And they make themselves apparent.
It's okay. It's okay that you have
That's
like
what I mean.
These pseudo friendships that are real friendships, but they're based on a certain thing. I think that's totally fine and wonderful.
For a very specific example, I'm going to use you and my homie Alex Goose. Alex, I love. He comes over a few times a week for a quick espresso, have weekly or bi-monthly wine nights. I see him very regularly. It took us over a year to work on a piece of music together. You and I have never worked on a piece of music together.
That's right.
But we are in the same industry. Alex and I are in the same industry.
And you and I have worked on the same records, like the same project, the same
not
artist.
on the same thing.
Yep.
And that to me is kind of one of my new, almost a prerequisite. Is like, I actually want to, as a mixer, not as a songwriter. We're talking, these are specific things. Because as songwriters, you're forced in the room. You got to get intimate fast. And you got to create, because it's the only way you're going to create something real. Most of the time, some people can do it from a distance and feel close, but they just show up every time because they're just that crazy good. Yeah. But I want to know what I'm doing. Like, I want to be friends with you, or I want to work with you. And there's going to be a line that's crossed. But at the same time, I got a lot of friends. I got friends that I count on and trust. And, sometimes there's a Spider and I think Chris Tabron coined this, is fast friends. Sometimes you just, like with you came up, we started talking about tubes. I was like, this is a fast friend. I love this guy. Like, that's going to happen. And I'm open to that happening, but it's not what I'm seeking. So when it happens, it hits you in the face. And you're like, oh, I don't want to not hang with this person. Like, I don't want to. And that's how it felt with Alex. Like, I just want this dude in my life. Like, it's that clear to me. So that can happen through music. So what I'm saying, or through any creative, it can happen at work. I guess it's maybe more rare at a more corporate job. I don't want to speak for that. I don't really know.
I can't speak for it at all, honestly.
Can't speak for that. I imagine it might be a little bit different just because your priorities are different when you're there. We'll book sessions and we won't get any work done in our, where it's all hang.
That happens a lot.
Someone just the artist or the writer is just not feeling it. And instead you just go get coffee or have a couple of drinks and lunch and just call it. But you had a deep conversation and connected. Like, that's part of our life. And I never want that part to go away. I don't know. That's a quick riff on it. All of my close friends are through music because we're like-minded, growing up in a family that wasn't very like-minded. Now we're close and I love them. I think I was like maybe they didn't understand me. So then you find people that are more like-minded, and it all just happened to be in music. It could have been painters. It could have been writers, and it just happened to be in music. I
think that's true for me too. The one thing I'll say about that is that, we've talked about it before. We did a big riff, and it's one of the clips on the LiveWithMattRad Instagram, where we have clips of things. Those of you that haven't seen it, there's one about a career in music is irresponsible, and it comes from the idea that it's actually hard for a lot of people to relate to what we do, because it's not, if you're not doing it, it kind of doesn't make sense. I mean, like, I talk to someone like you, or I talk to someone like Baines, and it's like, I know what it's like to have a crazy deadline and to put everything away and put everything in the rest of your life away in order to get it done, or to be obsessed with things. And so I think a lot of people, family and friends, have a harder time understanding that and relating to it. Even if they're very kind about it, it's still almost like they understand it intellectually but not emotionally. And so what that means is that it's much easier for people like us to become friends with people like us, because there aren't that many of us. But I will say,
and then the difference sorry, you keep going. No, you keep going.
Please.
Well, then the distinction that is made in kind of how I started my riff was that you start talking about other things with these people outside of music, because you're aligned on so many other things that you realize you don't have to only talk about that. And that's, I think, where friendship, the the fine line is then crossed into, oh, you care about me a little deep and what I can offer you. And in this city and in New York and London and France and Paris, maybe like in music cities and in Nashville, there's going to be a lot of transactional friendships and relationships.
Transactional friendships is a great thing. And it's not necessarily a negative thing.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
It's really important to understand
what it is. And you can compartmentalize these and recognize them and give love to them and make them flourish. And then you'll find a few outlier relationships in between. That's all.
It's like the work colleague relationships in music have a level of intimacy and vulnerability and understanding that I assume don't happen at the sort of normal corporate job level. And that's okay. Sometimes for people that are just starting out, that can be a little confusing because you're like, are these people really my real friends? Are they fake friends? But it's not good or bad. It's just there's
less of a choice though. You didn't choose who you go to that office with, right? Someone else hired these people.
True.
We effectively choose the sessions we say yes or no to.
Well, at a certain point in your career, yes. Yeah, I think that's very true.
Well,
and that's an important thing.
No, I mean, ultimately, the whole time, because you can say no to anything. You might have other reasons or variables for not saying no.
True. You have more decision making.
Says, do you want to write with this person? They just did this and had this success. I think you'll vibe with them. And then my response when I was writing or producing was, oh, let me get a coffee with them. Let me go have lunch with them, see if we vibe. And then, so I think we actually ultimately do. We might not.
Much more than another job, for sure.
Yes. So we can, I think that's why these relationships develop differently. I think that's something to make a distinction about.
And I will say, I
really like this question. I
want to keep going on. I got more thoughts, so please go.
Yeah, I thought about this a lot when I first moved into this space, because this space became my home and my studio, and I had to really care about who came upstairs. One, for privacy's sake, because I live in a very popular neighborhood, and I was a little bit skeptical on like people knowing what's upstairs from the store, and like it's my space. And then I started doing these events, and then I was like, okay, I need to stop doing this a little bit because of this reason. It's like, if you're going to be in my home as a studio or in my studio, you're also in my home. So I started caring more about the kinds of sessions I would take. And are they going to all bring like 10 homies, or is it going to be like, one homie, and I had to be, I've had stuff stolen from my place. And then that would make me think twice about it. It's like, oh, well, that dude was cool, but then he brought 4 people through, and like, who stole my cologne? It's like, I hope your girl thinks that you smell better now.
Everybody wants to smell like Jon Castelli. That's what it is.
But like things like this would happen. I was like, okay, well, and I'm an openly trusting human too. So there's 2 types of trusting humans: people that trust first, and then if they're let down, they just say fuck you, or like it takes so much to gain their trust.
You and I are yin and yang on that shit.
Yeah, I'm the first one. I'm like, do me wrong, and then I'll say fuck you. But
I'm trying to be more like you too, because
I want to believe that people are inherently good and have good intentions, and I think it's a nice way to walk the earth. I don't know if it is. I don't know if it's the smartest way. It's definitely not the most practical way, but it's easier for me to do. And then if people cross me, then they just get written off. And then I don't like have any ill will. I practice a meta practice. Like I don't have any ill will towards probably anybody in this world, I would say. But I don't need to have them in my home anymore. So I've thought a lot about it over the past 5 years, because my home became my safe space as well as a studio. And I do want to have attended sessions. So I do want artists to come. I do want producers to come. I want to host. I want people to feel free to bring their homies through, their wives through, their girlfriends through. If their wives want to bring a friend, I want that level of depth to be able to come through, but I have to be careful about it. And the friendship thing came up a lot. It was like, well, who am I trusting in here as the mainstays that can pop, before the pandemic, it's just like the Seinfeld, it's the pop-in. Like this space was a pop-in space. Like just, hey, I'm out front. What you doing? Oh, today's not a good day. Or like, yo, it's sick. I'm just mixing. Come on up. Like that was normal here for about a dozen people. Just like, oh, you're in the hood, pop up. Like, that's sick. Very Seinfeld. We haven't done that in quite a minute. I kind of miss it.
It's probably coming back at some point.
Anyway, so that's a riff on. I just think a lot about. I was thinking a lot about it. I haven't in a minute.
One thing I want to say, because I don't know which of us is more usual. Not that it matters, but it's interesting to hear you say that almost all of your close friends are, or at least all of your close friends in the last decade or two that you've made in the last decade or two, are all music generated from music relationships somehow. I've made a really, really concerted effort to make friends with people that are not in music for my own sanity, because I can definitely just like be locked in music industry mode all the time. And for my own benefit, and this gets into a larger conversation about creativity, that I need to get away from music world. This is why I came to New York right now, just to get away from LA. It's an art week here. I'm hanging out with my fashion designer friends and art gallery friends and that sort of thing, because they're in creative spaces, so we understand each other, but I'm not inundated with like talking about the same record label or the latest release from so-and-so, or did you hear this? Even though I love obviously having these conversations and it's most of my life, I need that antidote in order to then make great records, especially from the writer-producer side. Because if I'm just doing the same things with the same people, I get bored, I get tired of it. And we've talked about this a bit before. It speaks to my personality about not specializing, where like I will want to make a Motown sounding track and try to play some James Jamerson bass one day, and then I will try to make some crazy like 2022 808s the next day, and then it'll be like, you know, it's like why I have like Denzel Curry and Keith Urban credits, because I like all of this shit. But it's the same goes for just creativity generally. I need to get out of my comfort zone and out of my space. And so therefore it's been great to have a lot of friends where if I need to take some space from music, I still have these friendships that have nothing to do with music. I was hanging out with a friend of mine last night, and I was talking about the fashion industry, what she works in, and she was talking about the music industry, and we both realized we don't really know or care about the nuts and bolts of each other's industry, but we can relate to each other on an emotional, creative way that makes us both really comfortable, because she always talks to fashion people all the time, and we ran into 4 or 5 people when we were having dinner, and I'm always talking to music people. So I need that antidote, and maybe you're not the same way, or maybe your music friendships have enough. I mean, you and I talk a lot about mostly non-music.
That's what I mean.
And the fact that we don't actually work together.
I make the effort to say things like, I don't want to talk about music. And then I'll start a conversation about some philosophical approach to something else, or bring up science. And the people that are down hang, and we can have deeper relationships. And that's really, but that's not something that I'm doing in testing people. That's just how I am. And you know me outside of this platform. I mean, we do that on this platform. I try to get out of music conversations like we're doing right now. We're skirting around music by talking about friendship and relationships and how and where they can come from. But that's a prerequisite to be a friend, because I don't want to talk about the newest release. I hadn't listened to it. I just don't, that's not what I'm doing with my time. I'm trying to be the best I can at my craft in this field, but I'm not watching what records are doing what. Like, I don't like sometimes, and I want to know somewhat, but I'm way more interested in how to control my cortisol levels with nutrition, sleep, and exercise. Like I listened to today, you know, like you know what I'm saying? Like that's 100%. A prerequisite. So you can get that from people outside of music, or you can get that from people in your industry that also crave that level of connection deeper than what you do. So I actually don't think it needs to be one or the other. It can happen both ways, but you're more likely to find it outside because that's just by default. They're not in your world. But then the struggle with that is sometimes people want to know more about it, and then without you realizing you're talking about it more because they don't even understand what you do. So then you wind up asking questions and trying to figure it out. And then when that happens to me, I'm like, do I really have to talk about this? Like, did you see that film that just dropped? Like that was crazy. You know, so it can happen both ways. People outside, and also, you know, being in a relationship with somebody that I was
just about to bring this up.
You know, that's another thing. It's like there's got to be a fine line of learning about what each other does and interests, but like I don't want to talk about my work over dinner on a date with my girlfriend. Like that's just not what I'm interested in. Now, if a song comes out and it's exciting and we're going to cheers with some champagne to celebrate that it's the top 20 record, like that's a different thing, because that's celebrating milestones together. Yeah. And you want to do that with your partner. You want to do it with your creative partners, your romantic partners. You have to celebrate these milestones, but what kind of boring ass conversation on a date with your significant other is, yeah, I took a de-esser and I turned that threshold down real deep, like, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, I don't want, who cares?
Maybe women love de-essers and we just don't know it yet.
But you know what I mean? Like, that's not what we want to discuss. And I do know relationships that failed because homies couldn't get out of their head about what they were working on. And the other person was like, cool, that's great that you work on hit records, but there's got to be more to you than that. And I can't tell because that's all you want to talk about. And that's something, you know.
Yeah, there are, I know some great dual music maker couples that work really well. That's just never been something I've been able to do. At the same time, it's also been hard for me to have relationships with people that don't have some creative thing going on in their lives. So, and everybody's different though. I mean, there are people that have, you know, there are famous music industry couples and unfamous ones or not famous ones that I know that thrive and are collaborators, sometimes not collaborators, doing slightly different things. I mean, and sometimes that's beautiful, but I've found, again, I know for my own sanity, being able to separate from the show. I know, I love that. It's going to be really interesting. To be able to separate from music talk all the time. And the reverse is also true too, that if you are a music person in a relationship with another music person and you don't want to talk about music, but that might be what they need to vent about, it becomes this difficult thing where, like, I don't know. I've run into that a lot. We can maybe go into relationships deeper in the future.
No, I love what we're talking about. I also love, speaking of non-music, I heard you play tennis and chess, Jon. So do I. Super cool, Aid in the Hill, man. I play chess not as regularly as I wished, and I play tennis 2 times a week. I wish I played 3 or 4 times a week, but today I play with my manager every week, 2 times a week, like I said, and I kill him almost every time. I think he's beat me twice. Today I clobbered him 9 games to 1. Felt very good. I'm very competitive, but I realize that I don't mind losing if the match is good on both parts, if we both played well. But we both played well today, and I kicked his ass so fucking hard. And it felt so good.
I love the competitive part of Jon coming out in various moments, because we talk so much about, like, empathy and meditation and not being super competitive, except maybe with yourself, but you're like, fucking beat that motherfucker in tennis.
I
love it.
Seriously, like, it goes all out the window on in sports. Or
same
poker, or and it's just like, you, to each his own, and get the fuck out of my way. Like, that's, you know, when you're collaborating, I'm all with you guys. But in sports, there's no collaboration. Like, I could never play doubles tennis. It comes up, like with Nathaniel, that we should, like, you know, do doubles with people. I'm like, I try to talk out of it. I can't.
Maybe it's the next frontier for you. By the way, I'm not going to give out my chess handle here, but we do have a chess channel on the Discord, and there's a bunch of us playing chess, and I am both beating. I didn't know that. I'll join for that reason. I'm both beating and getting beat handily by members of the Live with Matt Rad community. We also have a crypto channel on there too. We're just people talking about all kinds of stuff. Cool. So if anybody wants to play me in chess, I'm on chess.com, but come on the Discord. I'll give out my handle again, because I'm playing with half a dozen, maybe a dozen people on there.
I really like this conversation about friendship and relationships. It's definitely a tricky thing to navigate for, without a better word for it, workaholics, creative workaholics. Yes. I'm trying to back up from that perspective intentionally, like working 5 days a week, still saying yes to fast turnaround, still doing the thing. But by default, weekends are off unless it's something I really, really want to do, or it's a relationship I really, really want to maintain. You know, like, there's gotta be more, because someone said earlier, like, will they still be your friend if you quit? Like, if you stop doing music, are these people still your friends? Is your wife or your husband or your significant other going to still be with you if you quit what you did? Like, these are questions that really matter when it comes to complex, deep relationships and connections. If it's only surface level because it's of what you do, it's probably not that strong. It can be strong enough to, you know, move a song throughout the creative process and finish it and get success. and then the success comes in, the royalties come in, the checks come in, and you're still like chasing what's next versus using those funds, those royalties, those gains, for lack of better words, actually, to go celebrate that and share that with someone else, right? I'm realizing that about myself, specifically through recent journey back into to therapy, which is I clearly like to share. Like, I really love to curate events, nights, whether it's one other person or 50 other people. And, you know, this is all coming out just by talking. Like, I've never really pinpointed why I do it. I can talk about it more freely of why I do it. I'm socially anxious, but I really love to host, so I can have my respite from the social activity by going to the kitchen and doing my thing, pouring the drinks, and talking about the wine or the food is easy. But talking about some new topic that I don't know about just yet, I'm going to listen more to that. Like, I can find my special place there. And that comes from being around people that I'm comfortable with. And that comes from wanting to share. And that sense of comfort comes from understanding what I'm good at providing for others, in turn affecting myself positively. Meaning, like, I don't think there's anything as a completely selfless act. So a perceived selfless act of others when you're being generous with the reaped rewards of some sort of creative gain that we might have. Yeah. It's also a bit selfish because you're doing it because this is what you need to do to be able to share it with others.
I want to disagree that it's selfish, because selfish implies that it's just for you. So it can be mutually beneficial, I think.
Well, what I'm saying, so yes, you're right. You're right. I agree with that. I think because I didn't actually get to finish. What I was going to say is, I think there's got to be a spectrum. Everything's on a spectrum. I know that saying is non-trivial, but when it comes to selflessness, the opposite end of that would be selfishness. Like, if we were looking at a visual spectrum. So if something is like completely for charity, let's just say that's like 80 to 90%, because that benefit is going mostly to the charity, but you have 20%, you might tell your friend that you did it. And like,
but see, I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. Like, the fact that we're doing this is a benefit to a lot of people, and it's a benefit to us. I think that's part of, I mean, this, we can get into a grander conversation.
I like this.
I think the socializing aspect of humanity has been destroyed in the last year and a half. And it's surprising how much mutual benefit gets had by people watching this, people chatting about it, being in the DMs, you and I getting to have a regular thing where you and I connect as friends. We give things away. It's a benefit to us and benefit to people. It's not zero sum. So it's not like 80% this and 20% this, because I don't think they're opposing forces.
I agree. To me, this is for everybody else. But at the same time, by default, me being so outward, or us being so outward, I'm going to get hired. I'm going to become a trusted voice in the field if I do my job correct and am transparent enough and still show up. So it can't be completely selfless, even though I think of myself as think of ourselves in this platform as for other people. Yeah. I'm getting something off my chest, so I must be getting something from it, right? So let's help me unpack this exact example. Yep. So I'm hosting a dinner, or say let's bring music into it. I am mixing an album, but that day, because we only have one song to do together, I decide to cook a dinner. And I cook the dinner because when all else fails, we can talk about the deliciousness of the food or what the recipe was, right? So I want to be social. I tend to want to isolate, but to force myself to be social in this session, I will do this in order to have that to fall back on for a comfort zone for me. If things start feeling awkward for me, I can retreat to that. Yeah. That is not selfless. Yeah. The act of cooking for others is selfless, but the reason behind it is so I'm comfortable in the space as well as them, which is equal part selfish and selfless to me in my breakdown of it. What are your thoughts?
I just don't think you have to make a distinction. I think it can be both. It's not 50%, 50%. It's just both. Like, it's not like if you get more selfish, it becomes less selfless. Like, you can do things that are both bring you joy and bring joy to a lot of other people. In fact, I would say on some level, that may be the ultimate thing in life, is to do things that help other people, that take responsibility for other people, that collaborate with other people, make people flourish, that also bring you joy. I mean, the ultimate thing is to feel good about doing things with and for other people. So it can actually be, I think it can be both. We just live on this. We haven't talked about
No, I like that. Do you want to hit some engineering questions?
Yeah, let's see. Man, okay, here's a good meta one we've got a few times, and I don't know if we've really talked about this, but I think it's a cool topic for you and me. Willie asked a version of it this week. It's been asked a few times before. How do you know if your stuff sounds good, and what makes the recording professional? Is there a standard? And you and I probably have the same idea, maybe different answers. Do you want to go first, and then I'll give a thought?
Hard question. What comes to mind right off the bat when you ask that question is, what reaction are you getting from other people? You know, I don't know what
do
sound
people
good.
like it?
Do people like it? I don't know what sound good means. I think that if something is distorted to the point where it's unintelligible, and not intentionally, like not in an artistic way, where you can still kind of make out, like the distortion's kind of creamy and you can still hear the transients, so you can make out the lyric. Like maybe like a 9 Inch Nails record, for example.
You know, the first XXXTentacion, the Look at Me, which is just like, I think that's that one.
It's
like crazy distorted.
Yeah.
But it's amazing.
Yes. So that's what I mean. Like there's got to be an extreme where it's too distorted or too tiny and mono sounding for it to compete. Like I'm sure there's like a spectrum of this is not going to work next to this on a playlist or compete at all because I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah.
But it's mostly, what the fuck do people think of it?
Yeah. Is it stuff that sounds bad to me? Are things, it's sort of like editing in film. Like if a film is edited well, you don't notice the editing. To me, a lot of engineering, mixing, even production is about, is the emotion coming across and is it affecting people? And however you get there is fine. There are hit songs that I think have bad mixes. I mean, one of my favorite all time is Hey Ya, which I think is just kind of a weird sounding mix. But it's one of my
so weird.
It's so weird. It's a weird production.
So
there's 11 bars and there's like it just
yeah, exactly. The 11 bar thing. Yeah.
So much of it doesn't make any sense, and yet it's one of my favorite songs of all time.
I mean, it's one of a lot of people's favorite songs of all time. It's one of the biggest records of all time.
It's an iconically huge hit song that's like generationally important. A guy who was like one of the dopest creative people out of the previous generation of Atlanta, Andre 3000, doing like a 3-chord sing-along 11-bar weird thing with no real chorus kind of. And it sounds weird and it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it's magic. So
yeah, for context,
would you say that doesn't sound good?
It sounds very good.
Yeah, I can't possibly say that song, it's not how I would have done it, but maybe I wouldn't have made it as good. I think it wouldn't have been as effective.
Let's hit Wavy Man's quick question in regards to this. What if all the people around you don't really know music, so you have the best opinion and still don't know? Ooh. You don't have the best opinion to start with. Same thing, and the people that don't know music are the ones that know music the best because they're going to give you their visceral, honest, emotional reaction to it. So take what they say with a grain of salt and translate it into music talk and how to effectively change that for the better, but take everybody's feedback. You don't have the best opinion. Yeah.
And there's something that I think it was Mike Shipley, the late Mike Shipley, who worked for Mutt Lange for years, who, worked on, I think, AC/DC up through Shania Twain, involved with doing the sonics and engineering for Mutt Lange on tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of albums sold. There was some feedback. I think it was on a Gear Sluts, now Gear Space Q&A years ago. They changed it. No longer Sluts. That's a whole nother conversation. It's called Gear Space now, I believe. It's 2021, man. I don't know. But
that's what needed to change.
Somebody said Mutt Lange made all these.
You got it. That's the thing.
Somebody said, "Hey, Mutt Lange made all these cool sounding records in the 80s with all amazing tape machines and the saturation. It was so cool. But now he's making all these sterile Pro Tools records. Like, why doesn't he make them sound like he used to?" And Shipley's answer, which I'm paraphrasing, you probably find it online somewhere, was essentially Mutt Lange doesn't care. Mutt Lange being the producer and co-writer, he doesn't care what I think or what you think or what he thinks. He cares what the receptionist thinks. He's trying to make records for millions and millions of people. And so does someone go, does the average music listener go, I don't know if I like the harmonic content. It doesn't quite have the snare drum bite. No, they just like it or they don't like it. It makes them want to cry or dance or shake their ass or whatever.
from the receptionist. Like, that chord on bar 3 of the pre-chorus is really not doing it for me. It's like, really?
Then you're just like, well, all right. But that's the thing is, like, who are you making music for? If you're making music for other engineers, that's I mean, I don't do that. I try to make music for the 13-year-old version of me / all the people in the world who would want to like something. I mean, that's my goal. And so, getting back to the question, how do you know if your stuff sounds good? Do you like it and do people like it? I mean, you have to like it. Otherwise, you're going to be fucking miserable in your life. Like, you have to make things that you enjoy. Otherwise, you should go work at a bank or get another job that's more stable, because music is an insane profession to try to get into if you don't love it. But yeah, what makes something good and professional? Do people like it and want to stream it? I mean, it's sort of an annoying answer, but there's no definitions for these things. Damn, we got so many. I know there's so many questions.
There's a lot. I love it.
Let me get to a couple. Let me see if there's. There's a lot of people who followed up on our conversation from last week about rates and about financial stuff. And
I went in on that. Was that okay? Did anybody get uncomfortable with that one?
People loved it because nobody talks about this stuff. Nobody says, I get paid X and some people do this way. I think we should do a whole hour on that. And as I've said to a few people in DMs or elsewhere, like, because I have, I think, more complicated deals at various points, I need to talk to literally need to call my manager and my attorney and make sure that I'm okay saying details about certain things, because I have signed more confidentiality agreements and things like that. So I need to figure out what it is that I'm allowed to talk about, which should be almost everything. And I would love to just be like, here's how I started out. I got paid X when I was 15 to run my little studio. My first big deal was this. I mostly get paid nothing for all. Like, I would love to do all that stuff. I just need to. I need to get a bit more. We should do a little more planning for that. There's also been some more suggestions, questions about doing a whole episode on transients. I almost wonder if there's a whole hour's worth of stuff on transients.
No, but make them, keep them, preserve them, use them.
Do everything you can to utilize them.
Do everything you can to preserve them.
I think, and we also have lots of clips, and we've talked about transients before. I think there's clips up on the Live with Matt Rad, but we're also trying to build a database for topics we've already covered, so people can just go right to them. But Bradley Slowhand Sound has been helping out with that. But anybody who's got ideas on how to build, who's got a little more coding experience, it would be great to start getting a real database together for that's searchable for all of the stuff that we talk about, because there's lots of overlap questions, and I tend to try to send people clips from the other Instagram and whatnot. But I mean, there's always going to be questions about transients, so maybe I would love to do some talk about vocal transients, because I think people don't understand. Anyway, we'll get it. Maybe we'll do like a half episode about it or something like that. Let's see. And there's Fury Drip just asked on there. There were a few questions this week about specific instruments mixing, and I don't know how to really get people like talk about mixing guitar or mixing piano, and I don't know that I have a good way to talk about that, because every situation is going to be different. Certainly these instruments have certain frequency ranges.
I'm compelled to make some sort of sarcastic remark about how to mix guitars, but make sure they're not too thin. Make sure they're not too bulky sounding. Make sure that they sound like guitars if you want them to sound like guitars.
Yeah, or make them thin because that's what makes sense, and make them bulky sounding because that's what you want.
What makes sense.
So it's like, I don't know, like how do you mix a certain instrument? It's not about the instrument, it's about the overall tools and what you're trying to get. So
I wish we had an April Fool's episode. I wish it fell on April Fool's, where I can just be like 500 hertz boost on guitar. That's how the guitar
CLA vocals on everything.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, can we make a meme episode that's just ridiculous? Yeah. You know how to mix guitar? 500 hertz, 20 dB of it. That's the secret sauce. You know, like that's what people should do. There are no rules. Thanks Thanks, Zach Higgins. I mean, you could put the CLA vocals on the guitar. It might do something.
Yeah, try it out. See what happens.
Put the Renaissance X Waves plugins. I'm back on the Waves train, guys.
Oh, yeah. It's all about it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for those. A lot of people asking. I'll hit you back in DMs and stuff if there's people with specific questions. But
making them sound lovely. I like that one. Yes.
Yeah, I like it. Oh, yeah. We'll do another episode with Kian. And people are asking more about Kian, the Mini Mansion stuff.
Ooh, let's do a studio tour.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to do a quick one? Okay, here we go. Jon's studio tour. That's his lovely old piano.
That's Miles Davis.
I've heard of him.
There's the piano.
Yeah.
And then I have, this will become Atmos at some point.
Yeah.
And then I have a rower because I row. It's priorities.
For the people who are just listening to the audio, we're doing a Jon studio tour, so you may want to go to YouTube or on my IGTV and check out.
There's the secret sauce. There's the secret sauce.
The Fern gear.
And then I have big speakers.
Those PMCs are huge.
Computer.
He does.
I have a computer. And then I have an assistant who's right there.
Hey.
And then I have a living room.
Yeah.
And then I have a dining room. I have windows. Where's the bathroom?
Back there through the beautiful kitchen.
Through the kitchen with an espresso machine. There's a bathroom. In here somewhere. I have a bedroom back there too. You're not going to see the bedroom.
Big open floor plan. Big vault. Big nice ceilings. Wood beams. There's
a chandelier hanging there.
It's a lovely environment.
That's the entrance.
Yeah.
We did it. We've never done that before. There it is.
There's the short studio tour.
His because Matt is in New York right now.
I'm in New York right now, and I'll maybe I'll do that. Maybe we'll go more in depth at some point. We should do a live together in the same room.
How do you control the sound? I don't. The space is so big that it controls itself. It's magic.
Yeah, there's a misconception, and that I had for a long time, that big open live rooms are always bad. That if you oftentimes need to a
screenshot of the Fern settings, and now I have the sauce. That's so good. You have it. That's it.
There it is. That's it.
You can now mix like me.
The misconception that a big live room that you need to just cover all the walls, it's not actually true. That if your room is a little square box or rectangle and you have parallel walls, you need to do things to deal with it. But we're also I still haven't scheduled with them, but we're going to do a live with the Unfuck Your Studio guys, and they'll answer a bunch of studio building questions. But if you have a room, it's why there are great sounding studios that are big, open, wood, high ceiling studios, because things can sound really good.
The back wall is 60 feet from my space. So if it's over 30, the bass just kind of goes, and it's concrete. So I'm lucky up here. And someone said, wow, what's the rent on that spot? I'm not telling you. It's a fair amount, and I said yes to it 5 or 6 years ago because of that exact reason, where the sound just kind of dissipates and goes everywhere, and in the mix position, it's really tight.
Yeah, and I
got a bit lucky. Yeah.
And you do have treatment. You have the attack wall. You have a cloud. You sort of created a mild semi-wall, small sort of room within a room situation where you still have enough air. We'll talk about it more in another episode.
I'll also be when I do Atmos, for everybody on the chat, I will be selling my attack wall. So if you want the attack wall that Hit Records were mixed on,
or mixed in front of,
you can buy my attack wall. So stupid.
You'll sign it for him too.
I'm feeling good today. Today's a good day.
You are. I love it.
But yeah, I'm going to be changing everything. So there's going to be no attack wall, and I will be customizing some panels to go into the Atmos. Are you going to have PMCs and Atmos? All PMC, yes.
We got another 5 minutes here. Let's see. I'm looking.
I think we went so deep today. I'm just kind of down to bullshit for a second. We got anything that's funny?
I thought there was a cool question from, and forgive me if I'm saying their name wrong, Derez, who just is there in the chat. Tell me how to say your name in the chat. Spell it phonetically so I don't screw it up in the future. Yeah. Asked, what are some practices one can apply for ear training? And I think that question can mean a number of different things, and I want to just hit him real quick. There's sort of like the musical side of ear training, and there are like courses and, learning to like I did briefly when I took some keyboarding classes at UCLA when I was in school, not being a music major, but just taking like the intro to music theory class, Derez. That there are like keyboard training things that you can do just on YouTube, things like that. But I think the best way to train your ear for music is play an instrument and learn songs. Like one of my favorite ways for learning piano, getting better at piano, is learn a song that you love to play that's pretty simple and then play it in every key. There's anything you can do to just get your brain into music mode and just practice. I mean, and then in terms of ear training for mixing and frequencies and engineering and things like that, I think it's just practice. I think you just got to do it a lot. I don't know. Do you have any specific ideas on how to do it? Because people always,
I think that's great. I want to pause on that. I want to pause on that really quick to just hit back on Wavy Main up here. This is my first live or anything on here, and I just want to say you guys literally saved my hope for doing music as a career, and I've learned more than I have anywhere else, awesome. And we'll be back every time. That's really sick. Honestly, that's why we do it. So Wavy Main, welcome.
Wavy Main.
Damn.
It's great.
Cool.
Honestly, man, and this is one of the things that, not that I'm trying to get you on the Discord, because you don't need another app in your life, but it's one of the things about the Discord that is so dope, because it's not me answering a bunch of questions for people out there. It's a bunch of record makers helping each other out and giving thoughts and trying things. And there's people collaborating already on it. It's just awesome that there's this little community building around these live streams that we've been doing for about a year now, more than a year now. And it's just cool to see people excited about making records. A big part of why we're doing this is because there isn't a way for all of us to get together and hang out in the studio for the last year. And also people that are far away from major cities where you're not going to run into record makers and other people. We're finding a little community on here, and it's a support group for us as well as it is for you guys. So shout out Wavy Main. You got any other?
I'll answer the question though. So when I think about ear training, I'll come at it from the engineering aspect. Like I know I didn't do this. I haven't done this in a while. I used to do this when I was younger, but then I kind of have the tool, kind of the understanding of what tools were used for different effects. But as an engineer or producer, that's not as much of a player. I would listen to records, read biographies of producers and engineers, and understand or watch videos if they existed of what was being done in the studio to achieve a certain desired effect, and then practice it and manipulate it myself. So ear training for me, because I also was a musician, I went to music school and I developed relative pitch and I understand chords and harmonics. My ear training is studying Prince records and knowing when he's using an H910 or there's an H3000 and understanding what's happening with pitch shifts on the snare drums and
then you
trying to do it. So ear training to me was practicing sonics. So I'll just come at it from that way. Both are equally as important. So I want to know if someone says like, yo, what's that reverb on that thing? I want to know, I want to be like, oh, that's a non-lin. Here, that's a K. Like that's a non-linear reverb, like 300 milliseconds or something, or depending on the tempo, whatever. But it's nice to know those things if you're talking about engineering or producing or sound design.
And I think
I don't necessarily care if it's a G major chord. I care if it's a major or minor chord and what that's doing. But to be able to tell the key by ear as a mixer isn't as important. I can go over to my piano and I can pluck it out and figure it out as a musician. But I want to know the reference points for sounds. I want to know if a snare is supposed to crack or step back from the vocal, depending on genre. Those are the ear training things that I think about. What is a guitar? How to mix a guitar? It's kind of a funny question. But when you listen to enough guitars, you know what a guitar should sound like, and then you learn how to do it.
Craze official in there. What do you think about trying to get as close as you can to reverse engineering a song you like? I think that's roughly what we're talking about. Whether it's a whole song or whether it's just a sound, that's a huge thing. Derez on there. Remaking productions helped me learn a lot. I've remade so many things. Like I remember, like even till a couple of years ago, what was that record I Spy that was Kyle and Yachty? There was something about that. The low end had it wasn't an 808, it was like a stereo synth bass, and I was like, I'm just going to spend 4 hours and try to make that beat. I want all those sounds. I want the low end to hit a certain way. And I spent it, and I made a pretty good reproduction of it. Maybe I'll share it on the Discord.
That's a cool one. That's cool.
So it's like, but whenever I hear something, I want to learn how to create it. That's really why I'm a record producer and mixer and doing all these other things. It's because I hear something and I go, how did they do that? I want to do that. That's basically my whole career.
Yeah, I agree. I'll add one layer to that, which is ear training and practice.
Yo, Eric Madrid mixed that? That's my guy. I went to high school with him.
Yeah. Oh, nice. One of the things that I did when I was, got my first studio, I don't know if we've ever talked about this on this. If not, forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but I think it's worthy of saying here. I would, if I wasn't busy, if I wasn't booked when I was 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, I just would remix a song that I already did and try something again, do it again. Try an approach. Hear a song that we're talking about, instead of remake that song, use that style of sonics on a song you've already have the files to. You don't have to re-release it. It's not better than it was. It could be. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. But practicing is
you should never run out of things to do. You should never run out of things to do. If you want to make records for a living, if you want to make records for the rest of your life, to get better, just keep making things.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to end.
I love it.
Big
You're
love.
the best. Enjoy New York.
Yeah, man. Love you. Love the community that's happening here. These are so much fun. I'm so glad people are enjoying them. We'll keep doing it.
Wavy mains. Welcome.
welcome. I'll see you guys on the Discord after. I think I'll see if I have the bounce. If I did a bounce of that of the I Spy record, I'll throw it up on the Discord right now. Love you guys. There'll be show notes up in the next day or two. It'll be up on YouTube, audio version tomorrow, and we'll see you guys next week.